Hi everyone, it's Tally. I'm back for another Community Conversations. This week we're going to be joined by two members of the Portsmouth Black Lives Matter chapter. But we just want to give a shout out this week as well. It's a Trans Awareness Week and the Trans Day of Remembrance is on Friday. There is an installation that's going to be going in at Victoria Park. So if you are out for your daily exercise, please adhere to social distancing and all the other government guidelines. But if you have time, do stop along and go and check it out. Without further ado, we'll bring on our guest today, and we're also going to be joined by our Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Madeline. So let's get everyone in. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for joining us this evening. I just get you guys to introduce yourself. My name is Tally. My pronouns are she, her. Whoever wants to go first.
My name's Madeline. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Officer. My pronouns are she, her also.
My name is Mariam. I'm one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter Portsmouth, and my pronouns are also she, her.
I'm Alex Ruddock, and I'm also one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter Portsmouth, and my pronouns are she, her.
Fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much for coming and talking with us today. The aim of these conversations is just to raise awareness and let people know about things that are going on and other organisations that do important work. And for anyone who doesn't know what the Black Lives Matter movement is all about, does one of you want to kind of give us a brief synopsis?
Mariam, go ahead.
So the BLM movement in Portsmouth did come about after the death of George Floyd, but then we've also got a lot of work to do locally. So a lot of the work we do is outreaching towards schools as well, different places in the community, sort of being in the community, people need help to report things as well, just being somewhere that some people can go to and talk to. We've got a lot more stuff planned as well coming up.
Yeah, because in the previous lockdown, I know there was a number of demonstrations that happened down in Portsmouth, and I'm assuming that you guys were spearheading that sort of work.
Yeah. So the last two, me and Mariam have organised the last march into a protest, and then the last protest that happened, both of which were in the lockdown.
Yeah, and you guys have done really well to adhere to the social distancing rules, and stuff like that can be very difficult to police, but all of the people that have attended, and from what I've seen and what I've heard, has been within all the government guidelines. So that's really good, positive work. How did you kind of get involved in this and decide to set up the Portsmouth chapter?
Mariam, you can start if you want. It's hard to know who wanted
it. So the first one that happened at the beginning of July or end of June, I believe, was set up by a few local people, including one young guy called Elijah as well. So you got more involved with that as speakers, and me and Alex actually met at the very first protest.
Okay.
So we met at the very first one and have been in contact ever since. And then for the march, it was people wanted to do a march, and we just chucked some plan in. And then since then, we've just been at the top of it, helping to spearhead the movement. I forgot what the question was.
Well, it's how did you guys get involved in it? But you met at one of the first ones and decided that this was something that you felt passionately about, I assume.
Yeah, I guess the first protest happened. So as soon as I heard about the first protest, I knew that I was coming. My daughter actually made front page news on Portsmouth News.
Oh, wow.
And she's led the chant at the beginning. And as soon as that happened, I knew that I needed to be a part of this movement. And this wasn't a moment. This was a movement that had to continue. So I guess after that movement, me and Mariam were pushing for another. People were asking us continuously, when's the next event? What's happening? What are we doing? And we were pushing that in the organisation chat, but nothing really was going anywhere. So me and Mariam just took the lead and said, you know what, we're happy to take over this if lives are busy, people have got things on, and then from there it's just been us doing our thing.
Yeah. And it is, as Portsmouth Pride is also a volunteer organisation, it's very difficult to balance your I would say your real life and your sort of volunteer life, wearing so many different hats and basically doing a full-time job on top of doing a full-time job and having a social life and trying to have the downtime, which Madeline can obviously tell you all about. But you know, we are all gluttons for punishment, clearly, because we put ourselves in these situations. But no, it is really positive. And have you guys seen any kind of change, even at a small level, with the work that you've been doing so far?
I think so. I think there's definitely. I think all you needed to see was simply the numbers of people that are coming out to say that there's change. I find that Portsmouth can be quite a racist place, and that not a lot of people speak about it. So I found, for example, you know, one of the first protests, I was trying to get my friend to speak, and he was like, "But I don't know what to speak about. I don't know what to say." And I was like, "Listen, have you experienced racism in Portsmouth?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "So that's all you need to go by. You don't need to make something up. It's simply an experience of yours." So I think it's definitely raising awareness in Portsmouth and bringing it closer to home that it's not an American problem. It's also a problem in the UK.
No, 100%. And I think for me, I'm mixed race. I'm quite fair skinned, and most people tend to think I'm European. But I actually have Pakistani background. My dad is from Pakistan. And I think that when this whole movement happened, it did make me take a look at my life. And I've always sort of lived with this mantra that, I've never faced any racism, really. And I think that it's kind of understanding the nuances within it, while people may not necessarily, you know, it's a spectrum, like sexuality. Sexuality is a spectrum, and there is elements where we can fall into this, and it's maybe not overt, but it is an example of the systemic racism that exists within our culture, especially within the Western world. And it's, you know, it brings that to light, and it gives us an opportunity to look at something and then say, how can we make change?
Definitely.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, sorry, go on.
I feel like there's more of a community feel as well within more of the BAME people within Portsmouth as well. We've had people reach out to us for all sort of different things, and like different like groups as well. We've been lucky enough to talk to other BLM groups in the UK as well. There's like a local police officer we're working with, and I feel like it's making people not as afraid to speak out as well. But
Yeah.
I think when you talk about spectrum, it's also we are in a racist society as well, which makes things so much harder. But I've realised a lot more people are aware. So sometimes you have people messaging the page just asking a question like, how should I refer to this? Is it better to refer to this as this or refer to that as that?
Yeah, I think starting a dialogue is one of the things that is really important, especially with all movements. When we look at the trans movement that has been happening, striving for equality, and that's fundamentally what we're all asking for, is to be treated equally as human beings. And there was the elements within this, more so in America, where you still have phobias even within minorities, like the Black trans lives are people that are probably some of the most vulnerable individuals who face it from all directions. Racism, transphobia, homophobia. It's, and you know, just as a general conversation. So it is really important what you guys are doing, and I know that Madeline is the one that reached out to you, and she's our inclusion officer to ensure that we are a diverse organisation. But yeah, so Mads, how did you get in touch with these ladies?
Well, it was actually from attending the BLM rally. At first, a friend of mine has spoken a couple of times. She unfortunately lost a relative in police custody, and I was there to support her. But it's also something I believe in. You know, myself, I've learned so much from attending the rallies, from listening to the speakers. Just, I think, coming in as a white person, listening to the Black speakers, there's a lot of things that are racism that white people don't even realise are racism, and I've just found it so educational. And I do want to thank you for that as well, and thank all your people that have spoken, because I really do think it's changing people's views. And I think you're doing some important work here.
Sorry,
my daughter in the background. I don't know if you can hear her.
That's
just
okay.
It's always when you need it to be quiet. But no, that's the main focus. Every time we've done a protest, it's not been, we don't want this to be violent. We want this to be educational and as you know, I wouldn't say relaxed, but you want to educate people through emotions and through stories. And like, to me, that's the most important. If someone can go away and be like, do you know what? Yeah, I've learned something and I've taken that away, and I'll, you know, like some people that I know, some of my white friends have said, wow, I actually said some of those things that have been said. I've actually used those before, and I've never really even realised that they were racist. And I think that's obviously a big point of what we're trying to do is help people become better allies for us too as well.
And that's really what a majority of things are, is being able to, one, start the conversation, and two, to humanize people, to allow people to understand that, you know, words can hurt people. You know, thoughts and ideals that, you know, might be sort of things that are so ingrained in our society. It's unpicking that fabric and giving people the opportunity to come and ask the question. You know, even now, like pronouns are it's a big thing to ask people how they identify, and when it comes to the color of your skin, that's quite easily seen, but it's understanding how someone's flippant comment can actually be quite detrimental when they don't necessarily realize it.
This is Nala.
Hi, Nala.
Say hi, Nali.
Hi, girl.
You're
That's
shy,
Ethan here
Famous, Nala, aren't you?
You are famous.
She's the poster child.
But yeah, so Will, with you guys, and we have Chantel.
I popped in because we put out on our socials, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you can either pop them in the comments or you can message us. And we have received a question that I thought was quite relevant to what you guys are chatting about, which is like language and kind of not being afraid to ask and that. So I'll ask you a question. So this is from a lady, and she said, when I grew up, I'm a lady in my white lady in my 50s. I was taught that to refer to someone as black was highly offensive, and was taught to refer to people as coloured. I've also been told that that's outdated and highly offensive. What language should I use? I love all people regardless of race, sexuality, religion, etc. And I just want to get it right. Please, can you help?
The word black isn't a dirty word. A lot of people, it depends what way you're saying it, but the word, if it's easy to say the white person over there, or oh, that person's white, it's not a dirty word to say black. The word coloured itself can come under like a really wide range of umbrellas, and is actually used quite a lot for companies to hide the breakdown of who they've got working for them. So, for example, Netflix, their rate of BAME people that work for them is 66% BAME, but only 13% of those people are black. And the term BAME helps sort of cover that up. Sorry, my screen's frozen, so I have no idea what's happening right now.
No, we can see and hear one. But yeah, no, I think that it's as you're saying, and it is, and this is the whole part of having these discussions and conversations, is that it's giving people the language and to understand. And it's like I remember you know, the same kind of thing is that my grandmother would say coloured, regardless of if you were sort of, my dad was coloured, whereas a black man would be coloured, and it is wrapping everything up in an old kind of style of thinking. But it's giving people the language and giving them the opportunity to have those conversations. So I guess, but it is also something that's very personal. So I guess from, and maybe you will agree with this, is to ask the person is to sort of how would you prefer to be described in that sort of sense, Miriam?
I think times are like slightly different now as well, whereas before we refer to a lot of different things in different ways that weren't necessarily the right way.
Mm.
So I feel like maybe that might be something that's easier for sort of younger people to sort of catch grasp with, whether like, no, you're a black person. It's a funny one because you've got people who have grown up in different generations, and in each generation things have been different.
Yeah, every generation it is different, and I guess the only thing that we can do is try to expand people's understandings and to show that we're all individuals, and we're all human beings at the end of the day.
For me, I guess it's slightly different. I'm mixed race, and that is the only term that I like to be called, but I don't appreciate half caste at all. I don't like the term coloured. But so yeah, for me it's mixed race. And I think that's the easiest way to describe someone of mixed background. It doesn't, make one lesser than the other. I also don't mind truly people calling me black. However, my mum's white, and I feel like if I refer to myself as black, I'm not appreciating the white side that I have. So I prefer mixed race, but obviously I'm clearly certainly not white. Well, in this light, I don't look a bit, but no time in the UK.
I do understand. I understand that perfectly well, and it again comes back to sort of the lady's question with terminology, because when I was growing up, my nan would say that I was half caste, because that was the terminology that she grew up with, and to her as a old white lady, that was what she knew, and that was how it works. But I'm very much the same as you. I define myself as a mixed race gay woman. That is who I am, and that's how I identify in the world. And Mads, I guess you've had your awakening with pride in your definitions of yourself.
And ironically, I know it's not directly a Black Lives Matter issue, but having attended those rallies has made me look a little more into the Roma side of my family ancestry, and I'm trying to find out a bit more about that side. That came from my grandfather. So although I do identify white, the Roma's quite a small part, but I've really picked up interest in that side of the family as a result of sort of expanding my knowledge of other races and not just, sticking with white British. There's so many more people in this country, and I need to learn about them and where people's ancestry is from.
And
I think
so,
it encouraged me.
Sorry, Mads. For what are the next steps for the Portsmouth BLM chapter?
Do you want me to? So we're still in contact with a few schools right now. We've had a few people reach out to us for studies as well. So we've had someone from Harvard University reach out. We've had a student from the University of Portsmouth reach out. We've also got a personal contact with one of the few Black police officers within the Portsmouth region. Both myself and Alex as well are members of Stand Up to Racism Portsmouth. So sometimes I haven't joined one of their calls for quite a while because work, corona, uni, all in the same bubble. It doesn't all go together. But we've still got a lot more to do. So we recently had a NSARS vigil as well. We've got a good group of people behind us. So hopefully soonish, once I get on it, we'll be making 2 different Facebook groups. And one will be for BAME people within the Portsmouth area, just to talk, do whatever they want to, have that community feel. If they have any problems, talk to each other there, whether it be about hair or just everyday life, and then have a separate group for everyone. So if people have certain questions, they can ask it there. For discussions that need to be had, they could ask it in those ones as well. And also hopefully doing sort of more of a Zoom call for everyone within the area, so they know who we are, to have a chat with the community and find out what more they want as well. I don't know if that was too quick, but
no, I think we
I think it's really difficult because I think for me, I never imagined coronavirus to go on this long. So in my head, I've been planning stuff, and then you think, well, you can't actually do anything. Like, and then every month you think, right, okay, we'll start doing something. You know, like I wanted to do something for Black History Month, and that went and passed, and now we're like, I can't believe we're already at the end, nearly the end of November, but we're still in a position where you literally can't do anything. So it's now having to try and adapt what you do and make it just as good virtually. So I guess we've been speaking about trying to do a virtual event online and how it would work. Would it be like a group conversation, or would it be, you know, we attend these Stand Up to Racism organisation meetings, and they're great. They've got about 25 people in them, and it's manageable with 25 people. But if you want big numbers, how do you like work with that? You know, if 50 people want to speak at a time, where do you start? You're like, okay, we'll just go, you know, it's so.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons that we started the community conversations, is because as an organisation, we do small events to enable the community to come together. We do our big event to get, you know, individuals like yourselves, other organisations to come together and, you know, to celebrate all the achievements that we have had as an LGBTQ plus community and as allies of other communities, and also to represent, you know, queer Black people and queer people of colour. And it is very difficult. So we looked at doing this as a way to kind of give people an opportunity to ask some questions. So I don't know if Shan wants to, if there's any more questions that have come up, and to also just start these kind of conversations and do a little bit of the work that we would hopefully give people the opportunity to do at a large event. But yes, yeah, I feel your pain on that one.
Oh, here she comes.
If you don't want to answer this, please feel free not to. But this is a question of mine. And I was curious if either of you guys are members of the LGBTQ plus community. And if either of you are, have you ever experienced any homophobia from people who are the same race as yourselves? And again, if yes, how do you think minorities can kind of come together to kind of tackle the issue of equality together, if that makes sense?
So I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, so I can't say I've experienced any sort of homophobia within the same race as me. Sorry.
No problem.
So I normally have a slit in my eyebrow, but it's growing out. So yeah, I'm bisexual. I haven't really experienced any sort of homophobia growing up. But from my mum, it's like sort of she doesn't quite accept that side. But when it comes to like all my other friends who are part of the community, she loves them to bits. I mean, my mum loves me to bits. Let's not get it twisted. She is a phenomenal mother. Like honestly, and she's great with my friends who are part of the LGBT community as well. I think first, like it being her child is a bit different. I think communications are really important. As we've grown up more, we've been having a lot more conversations about things that would have been considered taboo when she was younger. So we have talks about mental health. We actually had to talk about thrush the other day because 1 in 3 women get it, and when you first get it, you don't know what it is. They just chuck a pad at you, and that's it. So a lot of the conversations me and my mum has now is a lot more about things that she grew up in the Gambia. She came here when she was about 20, so things that she necessarily didn't talk about then. And I think when you say like race, like sort of face any homophobiaism from people your same race, every race unfortunately does have it. So I guess as a white person, you've had people that have been like that to you when you're white, as a black person would if they were black. Unfortunately, every race always has a few of those people. But I think communication, if you are from a black community, is really important. Having those communications as well, because we're from all over. That's what the amazing thing is, and the more you have those communications, the more you feel yourself getting closer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your answers. We've also got another question. Says, do you have any recommendations of social media accounts, books, TV programs, films, which are educational about race and the struggles of black people and people of colour? I suppose we've kind of got so much now. But do you have any specific ones that could be really helpful?
I guess for me, I've got obviously I've got a daughter that I'm Nala. I've got a daughter that I'm bringing up in this world that I need to teach her about black role models. So I found that there's quite a lot of books out there. They're not as easy to get your hands on, but they're there. So there's like a book called Little Leaders in Black History. So it's a book relevant, probably not to a 5-year-old. Like I can read it to her and that's fine. She couldn't read it, but it's animated. There's pictures. There's a lot of resources. So there's a couple of books that are made that have got black children in them that you don't often see, which is nice, because when I was growing up, this sounds really, really lame, but when I was growing up, I used to buy my dad a greeting card with like a white man and a white woman or a white kid on it, and I used to have to like get a colouring pencil and be like, that's not my dad until I've coloured it in, you know. So it's nice to see it now. Books wise for me, I don't read books. Let's just be honest. The books I read for Nala is Where the Line Gets Drawn.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of educational resources online, as in Instagram. There's a lot of pages that are linked to BLM, and we share some of the educational stuff that they post. So I'd always refer people to the BLM page, and even just look at their followers or who we're following. And there's I think it's called educational racism or something. One of the pages.
The green one.
Yeah, it's a green logo, and I always look on there for just helpful things. But I also think it's important to focus on not necessarily the bad, because like I've been having conversations with people recently about this whole Sainsbury's advert thing, and the responses that we're getting from certain people about how the video is portrayed, or you know. But I also think it's good to focus on the fact that, wow, like, you know, it's taken enough time, but, you know, Sainsbury's have created an advert with a black family in it. Like when I was growing up, never, ever. And I guess for everyone, things have changed. You know, you never saw, when I was growing up, it was, I think EastEnders had one gay couple on there. I can't remember their names, but it was like, that was, and it was talk of the news everywhere. So now it's normal. You see it all the time, and that's how it should be. So I just think it's getting it out there, looking for resources. They are widely available. You just have to open your eyes a little bit.
Yeah, I think with any kind of progress, there's always going to be some kind of pushback. But at least the progress is happening. Like with the Sainsbury's advert, you have that representation. Like I know I saw something for advertised for a lesbian Christmas movie and the other day, and I was like, wow, like I didn't even think it could be possible, like that would be coming to have like a lesbian Christmas movie. So I just always assumed.
Wait, what's it called?
I can't even remember now. How bad is that? It's got Kristen Stewart in it.
Oh, it's season something. It's got Kristen Stewart. I watched the thing about it because it's Clea DuVall who made it. And she's.
Once you know, just send me it.
I'll send you the link. But like, obviously, I'm not black or a person of color, but I know from that how amazing that was to be like, oh my god, I can watch a lesbian Christmas movie. So like, I can only imagine that's kind of similar, I guess. But it's happening. Change is happening.
It's interesting how, sorry, Shan, it's interesting to see how you can understand progression and acceptance by what is sort of on mainstream television. And I remember when I was growing up to see everyone who was sort of Asian owned a corner shop in soap operas. To see mixed race people on television was very, very rare. And to see gay people, I mean, I remember when Queer as Folk came out, and that was like the first time I'd ever seen anything about gay men, let alone, you know, watching something about lesbians that weren't, you know, sort of one line, kind of very the stereotypical butch lesbian who was a man hater, which, you know, doesn't represent obviously me. But I think as we see time and progression and things that kind of change, and with these adverts coming through, we're seeing a shift in the media and what is coming along, and that is really positive. And a lot of that changes down to, you know, the things that you guys do. Sorry.
Don't apologise. We're just listening, girl.
But no, I mean, I remember for me, the first time I had that moment, and I don't know if Chan for you, there's been a couple of moments where I've looked at what's going on in the mainstream media, is when the L Word came out, which was the first sort of time to ever see like a show just purely about lesbians, and then to have a mixed race character on there, who Jennifer Beals is as well. She is a mixed race actress. She's half black and half white, but even in that, she this is years and years ago, she discusses this kind of like the being light enough to pass, and how race is such an issue with that, and you live by this sort of the one drop rule. If you've got a little bit of colour in you, then white people see you that way. If you have a bit of white in you, then people of colour can see you sort of that way, and it puts you in a very difficult diaspora of individuals. And for me, I think the one show that I watched where I had that moment and I was like, this is amazing, was Ackley Bridge, which was about a gay like Pakistani girl, and that was amazing. I never ever in my lifetime thought I would see anything. I mean, fine, she wasn't mixed race, but it's the closest thing I've ever seen that sort of I could identify with. And it's great that we're getting that kind of identification in adverts, because it's a small snippet of what our world is like.
I will say, I still think there needs to be more mixed race representation as well. Not as you can, I'm not mixed race, but I know for some people that are, it's a bit confusing on what side you go on. Because you're black, but you're also white, you're mixed race, you're part of both. And there was a study I read where it said our black and white people, mixed race people, have more mental health because it's harder to know where to fit in sometimes. I'm not mixed race, so Alex, I don't mean to speak for you.
No. I fully agree. I think
it's something people do need to be more aware of. So it's great that we're getting a lot more representation of black people in the media that we've had from the sort of with certain shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff. But one of my best friends who's mixed race, she literally tells me she never sees anyone really like her apart from Zendaya, who is smashing it. But why do we only have one mixed race girl who is smashing it? She hasn't got a lot of people that she can relate to.
I think we need it. I think we need, you know, even like kids programs, they're up and coming in what they're showing. But I think generally, I feel like it started as a tick box exercise. Yeah, let's put them in just so we can say that, yeah, we've, you know, we're fitting all the marks. But I think as time goes on, people are actually enjoying it, and programs want it. So you're seeing it all, you know, Strictly Come Dancing with same-sex couples. I think it's great. It's what the world needs. They need to see diversity because it's in front of them. And you shouldn't, like, we should be in a world where we don't have to necessarily explain things to people because it's so widely there that it is normal, because quite honestly it is, you know.
And it is a time shift as well, because I don't know how old you are, and I'm not going to age you, Alex, but I know that for me,
how young I am.
how young you are. I know that for me, when I thought about, I don't have children, but when I was thinking with my partner about having kids, we sort of had the discussion about how life would be for them by having two gay parents. And then I go back to when my parents were thinking about having me. And I was a test tube baby, so they had to actually go and sort of do that. And they thought about, and they had the similar conversations that me and my partner had about their child being mixed race and what that would look like, because there wasn't as many mixed race couples. It just wasn't something that was as normal as it is now. And we're lucky to live in a time where we have a wider spread of individuals who don't necessarily fit into one specific tick box, because you're not just black and you're not just white, or you're not just Pakistani, you know, you could be Irish or Swedish or a bit Romany, and it's a mishmash of all different cultures, which is one of the things that makes Britain an interesting place to live. But we have to press forward as the younger generation to break down the barriers and remove the old way of thinking, that colonial understanding of race.
Yeah, I agree.
In my opinion.
No, I agree.
I'll say, I think something that more white people could do is that when something happens, everyone needs to remember, because we're in a racist society, we've all done racist things before. And I think certain situations, I'm like, yes, that person, not that anyone deserves hate, but I think more communication can happen with a lot of the white community communicating more with the white community, and remembering that we've all made mistakes before. Remember that going into a situation, if someone's had a slip up, talking to them about it, you've got more privilege than us within that situation. Because where it hits us on a personal level, obviously everyone has feelings, but it doesn't necessarily affect in the same way.
Yeah, I think as well, as a white person, I feel that within all this, my role is to take away some of the labour from my black friends and use my privilege and platform to speak to other white people and say, well, wait a minute, this is what black people are telling me it's like, and direct them to the right resources, or say to them, look, I'm listening to people and this is what I'm hearing. Because a lot of my black friends I was speaking to, they're just exhausted, constantly explaining to white people. And, you know, I hope that myself and other white allies can take on some of that workload for you and support you in that way.
I guess
it's a lot of the same questions. Sorry, no, go on.
No. I guess for me, I think if you put yourself into the position where if we have to explain it to a white person, we don't want to come across like we're necessarily telling them off, because that's not what they need. They need the education. So I don't know if it's the way that it comes across. You know, it's not teaching people isn't about racism. Doesn't need to be blacks teaching whites. It can be anyone. You know, so my mum works at QA Hospital, and the chief executive there is looking to do more about racism, BLM, everything. They're trying to do more about diversity. And my mum was like, "Well, maybe you could, like, you know, round up some people." And I was like, I do hope, like, you know, that when I'm rounding people up, I'm not like choosing the black people in the community and being like, right, come on, we're gonna collectively go and talk to. No, because it will be about the people that know everything and that can answer the questions and be, you know, a lot of black people, like you said, are exhausted. I'm exhausted. Mariam's exhausted. I mean, I think we're more relaxed now, but in the heat of these protests. We're trying to do them, but me and Mariam would call each other and be like, oh, do you know what? You see backlash, you see comments, and you're like, I'm so fed up of constantly. And then you have an argument on the page or something. Just recently, I posted something about Walter Wallace, one of the black guys in America that was killed. And I don't believe he was killed because he was black. I was just posting it as we're Black Lives Matter, and he's a black guy.
It just said
shot.
justice for.
Yeah, I didn't say, police killed him because he's black. And this guy went on. He was like, you're falsifying all this situation. And I was like, wait, hold on. And then he said, no, you're not, but other people are. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, you take your post to someone else's page, because I'm just identifying people that we're losing in our community and highlighting them and, giving them the justice that they deserve. So I think for me, it is about, getting white allies on board, like Maddie said, and helping them educate. And I think maybe they'll listen a little bit more if it comes from, I guess, the way we come across. If I was trying to have a conversation with a racist or with someone who didn't know they're being racist but was, my emotions would probably take over a little bit, and that's not how education probably is best taught.
No, I think it's very difficult to have those type of conversations when it is personal to you, and it can be extremely exhausting. And are one of the things that we as a pride, and the majority of prides have to do is rely on our allies. And Alex, when you said you're not part of the LGBTQ plus community, I potentially would contradict that, because we have an A in there, and an A is for allies, because our allies, our straight allies, are so important, in the same way that are for the Black Lives Matter movement, your coloured allies and your white allies and your human allies are so important, because fundamentally we are all human beings and we all want to be treated as human beings, and that is what it's about. It's not about having arguments, it's not about debating your existence with someone. It's about saying, hey, I'm a human being, I live, I breathe, I bleed like you. It doesn't matter what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside.
Yeah.
I think a few more just need to be more aware of how many questions they're asking as well, because sometimes you go certain places and you get the same questions over and over and over, and sometimes you don't necessarily want to talk about a certain thing. If you say you've gone around to a friend's house, or you're at a certain place, you're trying to go back to your day-to-day life, and then all of a sudden it's all these questions. It's like, but these are things. I had a friend message me before, and I was like, before I reply to you, have you Googled this? He was like, so what are these protests for? So what are these protests for? And I just went, have you Googled this? Like, what's the end goal? What do you want? I was like, have you Googled? And then I just sent a massive paragraph. I was like, sorry if that came off harsh, but this is like the 6th time today that I've had to do this.
You just need to point people to your social media and be like, go and look on there and read the summary of the.
And they can do that.
Google.com or Recosa.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe one of the most powerful ways that white people can support Black people and people of colour is to actually call out when they see injustice happening, even if it's a small comment or something extreme. I think probably the most powerful thing that we can do as white people is to call that out and use our privilege in that way. But
which is the same as what we should be doing for our gay friends and our trans friends and our friends of colour. If someone says something, even if they don't mean it or know that it is offensive, then if you are aware of that, then I guess I will always say it if someone misgenders someone, or even if I do it myself, I check now to make sure that I know people's pronouns, I know how they would like to be called, and how they identify, so that we can have that conversation. We can make sure that everybody feels safe in the spaces where they are.
It's just about being a kind human at the end of the day. Just about being kind and having a heart.
I mean, I don't see it to be difficult, but apparently it's easier to be like that than it is to just be kind. I don't really get it. It's just about if that's what makes you
are more
happy.
relatable to Black people.
I know. It's just, if, you know, I'd prefer to, you know, it takes people a gut load to make people sad. And it takes, you know, simply, I walked down the street in the morning and I said good morning to this guy, and the smile that he had leaving, like, old guy, he had like a Zimmer frame, and he was struggling anyway. So I just smiled at him first, and he like kind of gave me a smile back, and I was like, morning. And the smile that he had, I was like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to flatter myself and think he had the best day of his life, but I do think it's like sometimes it's simply just little. You don't have to do much. You just have to support and be happy and be kind to people.
Yeah,
It's literally it.
So if people want to find out more about Black Lives Matter in Portsmouth, they can head to your Facebook page, which we've got on the screen below. They can head to your Instagram. Is there any other way they can get in touch with you guys if someone has watched this and they think, actually, you know what, I really want to get involved in this. I think this would be good for my school or my college, or what's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
There's an email address, but I don't know if you can inbox the Instagram page, or you can email, but I don't know the email off by heart. Mariam might be able to tell you.
Portsmouth.blm@gmail.com.
So some people like email, so they can do that.
Perfect.
Yeah, Alex is quite on the responses for the Instagram.
Well, someone's got to be.
Sorry.
If anyone out there wants to get involved, then please hit Alex and Miriam up. And
we've got another question.
Okay.
So we've got lady said, in education, we have Black History Week where children learn about successful Black people in history. Do you feel they should also be taught more about what and how they have Black people have been treated over the years and how they have suffered? Do you think this would help children understand why Black Lives Matter?
I think it's more than just suffer, but also realizing that how much history Africa has behind it as well, and also what's happening in modern day times, like the NSARS movement and what's happening in Angola. The English curriculum is very, very, very whitewashed. A lot of people don't know about the first Haitian Revolution. They don't know who Thomas Sankara is. He's one of the presidents of Burkina Faso. There's so much out there that we just don't get taught. Instead of worrying about whether Beethoven was Black or white, actually there was a lot of classical musicians who were Black. Incorporate more Black people into your curriculum on a general basis. We're not saying make the whole curriculum Black, because that would be like what Christopher Columbus did. But we're just saying incorporate us every here and there, every so often, not just for a week.
Or a month.
Or a month.
I've noticed that as well. I mean, as a nurse, even from childhood, we were always taught who Florence Nightingale was. But it's only after I've actually qualified into nursing that I've learned who Mary Seacole was. You know, but you don't hear her name in school.
No, but there is the Southampton General Hospital has a wing named after Mary Seacole, which I thought was really impressive. Well, not impressive, but it was really good to see a Black female to be recognised in that way by the NHS. And as you said, with Mary Seacole, I learned about
within the NHS
Mary Seacole from my partner who did cultural and historical studies, and she actively sought out to study Mary Seacole and told me about what she did in the Crimean War. And she was actually on the front lines when Florence Nightingale was off in a cosy little hospital somewhere. But yes. And I believe that Pigeon Books actually has a number of books that relate to people of colour. There's a whole series. So if anyone is interested, then do head down to Pigeon Books and have a look at what they've got, or go online because we're in lockdown.
For the teacher as well, I would say... For the teacher as well, I would say also give your young people statistics. When young people know a lot of statistics about things that are happening, they get so much more involved. Let them know the statistics of how many BAME people and Black people are in England, the rate of people that are getting arrested, the rate of a Black woman is 5 times more likely to die during childbirth and pregnancy. from working with young people for 3 years of my life, when you give them the facts, they charge ahead. And once they know that the things they come up with is amazing. So with the older kids, be more realistic with them, because the stuff they come out with, I cannot. They're switched. Hi, Nala.
Say hi again. I just wanted to talk about, like, we were talking about education, and this is one of Nala's favourite books. I don't know if you can see it. It's called Mega Magic Hair Swap, and it simply it talks about the child loving her hair, and I think that's something, you know, like in oh, apparently there's another one here. But it's nice to see, like, someone she, you know, identifies with. But, you know, the hair, but when children grow up, specifically when I grew up, and this is no blame on anyone, but when I grew up, my hair was a chore, a problem, you know. Oh, your hair again. Oh, it's Thursday, we've got to do your hair again. Whereas your hair is beautiful, like, and we've got to embrace the afro puffs, you know, if it's afro puffs that you're embracing.
And you are rocking some amazing buns there.
But yeah,
she's like, yes, I am.
There is lots of books. Waterstones have got lots of books. There's a page on Instagram that I buy off called The Busy Bag, and they sell lots of books for the BAME community, for children of all ages, and you can DM the lady that runs it, and she will always investigate if she can find a book specifically. I don't know what my child is doing right now. That's cool. Trying to spin around.
She's checking. She knows she looked good. She knows she looked good.
She's checking at angles, like, where's my
looking like a model, Nala.
Isn't it? She, you know what? After the protest, she woke up and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Nala, you're in the front page of the news." I took her into the shop and bought it, and she was like, "Oh, I'm famous." I was like, "Okay, not quite. This is
She'll
just
start signing them and giving them out at school."
She did take one to her nursery to show them, and they were like, "Oh, we've already seen it, but we'll put it up."
Oh.
Cute.
Have we got any more questions?
No, I think that's it. Kim said, "Thank you for this conversation tonight." Amy Miller said, "I really want that Portsmouth Pride tea, Mads." Mads specifically arranged her camera so you could see her glitter.
Got a little bit of glitter.
Did we do some of these, or do we need to go?
We probably need to do another run. We did a very limited run of those t-shirts way back when. So yes, if you're interested in any of the merch,
anyone wants one of these, just pop us an email and we'll organise a run, I guess.
Yes, or potentially you might be able to get one at the Portsmouth Creek Market, because I know that a couple of the guys are hopefully going to be heading down there at some point, if lockdown definitely goes away on the 2nd of December, which we're all hoping that it will. And yeah,
I'm bored of it now. It's ruining everything. I mean, also, it's just not fun. It
was more fun.
People are dying. We're not. I mean, people are still dying during this. I just want people to stop dying.
Yes, that would be really good.
Oh.
So yes, on that note, well, I hope good luck with what you guys are doing. If you're watching this, be sure to follow them on Instagram, portsmouth.blm, and on the Facebook as well. So thank you, Alex, and thank you, Miriam, for joining us. Sorry, it's Mariam, isn't it? Miriam. Mariam.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Alex's daughter.
And thank you, Nala, for joining us as well.
Come and say thank you. Say bye.
And we'll keep an eye, and hopefully we can check back with you guys in the new year once all the lockdown's finished, and hear what events you guys have got coming up and how best we as a Pride can be your allies, as you are allies for our LGBTQ plus community. So thank you very much for joining us today, guys.
You're welcome.
Good luck with everything, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.